falling down.
Yes, they got. She got paid for their nice little travel.
Oh my God.
I'm sorry.
This is.
Initially like 250.
Yeah, that was way more, Kristen.
Are you serious?
Yes, completely. This is less than half. They took 147 of them off of here for you.
Well, and everyone showed up, so we have. Okay, this will be interesting. We should probably call it. Let's just call it to order. All right. The time is 1:05 p.m. on December 21st, 2022. I'm Christian Waugh, Special Master for Citrus County, and I hereby call this boat launch hearing to order. We do have an agenda. I'm going to go. Well, the first item on the agenda is the call to order, and I'd like to ask you to join me in a pledge to the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you all. Could we take things a little bit out of order? This is the first of its kind, and I'd like to see if we're all on the same page about how this is going to go. First of all, could I get introductions to everybody? What's your name?
This is Noble. I'm the senior secretary for Parks and Rec.
Cool. Nice to meet you.
I'm Francine Nobles. I'm the director for Citrus County Parks and Recreation.
Hi, Ms. Nobles. Nice to meet you.
Pleasure to meet you.
And who the heck are you? Yeah.
Hi, I'm Stephanie Kuntz. I'm here with Premium Parking as the expert witness or presenter.
Okay, that'll be important. And I think I know everybody else. Is there anyone? Literally anybody? Okay. I see that we have a huge agenda here, and I don't see anyone. So, is the county intending on proceeding with calling these cases and having them heard? Okay.
Because the mailings were not sent certified mail.
Okay.
So that was not in compliance with our ordinance requirements. In order to be able to ask for a default if somebody didn't appear, we decided to go ahead and have this hearing because people could have gotten the notices in the mail and appeared.
And that could have
And we didn't
conceivably
want any-
rectified any prejudice.
Right.
Right.
Yes, and we didn't want to put out people who went to the trouble to show up today, so that's
Oh.
why we went ahead with the hearing.
That's great. So I don't know if anyone, I mean, has anyone shown up? Do you know if anyone has shown up or intends on
Do
showing
you know
up?
Francine?
We've been watching the hall, and we did not have anybody that we noted here as of yet.
Well, since we're here and you're not gonna call the cases, I wondered if I might discuss the county's presentation of these cases.
Sure.
I mean, do you think that would be an appropriate thing?
We would
What-
we would welcome that.
Yeah, well, great. Well, it's a public hearing, you know, so that's the important thing, that we shouldn't have ex parte communications about it, but anyone will be able to see this, and I think it's important that we get on the same page. So how does the county intend on proving these cases?
So we do have the information provided by Premium Parking that Ms. Stephanie could provide to you per case, and it will actually show you the time that the launch occurred, the date and time, and it will also show you when they left the launch, as well as a picture of the boat launching with the license plate that did not populate in their system when they looked to see if there was a launch fee paid or they were in possession of an annual pass.
Okay, so there's going to be information presented, and what's the name of the vendor again?
Premium Parking.
Premium Parking. So Premium Parking is the third-party vendor that's contracted with Citrus County to, what exactly is the vendor doing?
We're providing enforcement.
Enforcement.
We have the photographs that are taken of the license plate are mailed out in notices. So we have proof of the notices that are mailed out indicating that they were given 60 days notice.
Notice of the violation, a photo of the, I guess conceivably the plate, if there is a plate.
And the boat.
I mean, they don't all have plates, do they?
Correct.
Yeah, okay.
And at that point, they can use their license plate from the vehicle.
Okay, and so that's going to be provided as in the alternative, like if there's...
Right.
How
Some
do you have
states,
that? How do you have that?
when they,
Like, where are the cameras taking the photos?
right at the launch, as soon as they are backing.
Oh, as it backs in.
As they're backing
Okay,
in, the
okay.
cameras are on each launch, snapping a photograph.
Yeah, it's hard to back a boat in unless you have another vehicle doing it. Okay. I mean, well, who knows? And does this ordinance apply to any type of boating vehicle? Like a...
It's a watercraft or non-watercraft, I believe is the way the ordinance is written. Anybody that chooses to use a launch for motorized or non-motorized would be required to pay the launch fee.
Okay. And did the county base its ordinance on anyone else's ordinance, or was it just a homegrown drafted? I guess what I'm asking, just to know, if I wanted to know the model for this, did the county have a model in mind when it adopted this law?
Other ordinances were looked at throughout the state of Florida.
Okay.
And then we had public hearings where we were given guidance by the county commission as to what kind of water vessels they wanted to be included, and what annual passes, the level of the fine, the cost of the passes.
That makes sense. I mean, we're passing a right-of-way, vacation of right-of-way ordinance in one of my cities right now, and we're looking all over the state, but sometimes there's actually like a specific model where we're like, oh, that's exactly what we want, and then I could look and see, well, how does it work in that city? But that's fine. And so the idea is to is the only evidence that's going to be presented through the business records, so to speak? Or is there going to be other evidence that is produced in each case?
It would be through the business record, but there may be testimony regarding the business record.
Okay. And
As
that's
to
why I
the
talked
process.
earlier. And that's why I
Yes, to
talked
the
earlier.
process, yes.
I mean, my belief about this is that you would need business. It's hearsay that would. We know that in quasi-judicial proceedings that hearsay is admissible, but when it is the sole or main basis for proving the case, that you really need to have the predicate for the business record, and you're ahead of it. So
We're not just going to give you the predicates.
well, I mean, that's why I wanted to talk
Stack.
about it. I would never expect y'all to not be on top of it. I just wanted to talk it through. So really, but you can do that a couple ways. You can have testimony about the business records. You can have a declaration certifying the business records. But will there ever be any other testimony besides the business records, so to speak, and an explanation about the business records?
I do not believe so,
Okay.
because most of this is, it's cameras that are set up that are recording all this, and computers are generating documents. In some cases, there may be some contact between the person who received the citation or the notice of violation and the company, because they do call or email. So there might be information regarding communications, just as we have in our regular code, where people contact
Oh,
the
sure.
code office.
Yeah. Well, heck, my office gets calls sometimes, and you know,
But in this case, it is the company, the vendor, who is the enforcing agent rather than a code enforcement officer. They have been authorized to do that by our code.
okay. I don't think that there's really any issue with that. Do you guys have any questions for me?
Ask him now. If the agenda is an appropriate format.
Oh yeah, it sure is. Let me look at each case.
May I provide you some backup as to what would be to that?
You can give me anything.
Is that
It's a
okay?
public, that's the benefit of being on camera. I mean, are these being posted on YouTube?
I
I hope so.
yes.
Let's get this on YouTube.
I
Let's-
assume so.
So, first case, first page, that'll give you the backup of the information the presenter would be able to
Ah,
present.
okay, this is really useful. All right, let me see.
These are going to be held quarterly.
So the reason in this packet for the violation is unpermitted entrance. And for the record, I'm not admitting this as evidence. This is just for demonstrative purposes. In other words, we're not actually taking up this case right now. Interesting.
He's reviewing this right now.
Is premium parking going to be able to testify or respond to questions regarding like license plate recognition details? Like if the accuracy isn't high and it says something else, will you be able to testify about what that means, or does it matter?
To be honest, not really.
Okay. No, I mean, it may not. I don't know if it matters, but I'm just curious.
They were printed in black and white, so they're not as clear as the images actually were on the actual screen of the computer. Just wanted to point that out.
Lots of dates about notifications and how this happens. Have you all done any dry runs over what these hearings would be like? Finding some, discerning and extremely handsome fill-in for myself to, preside over the cases and figure out how they'd go?
We try to think of things that they may come and project as to
Yeah.
why they didn't pay. We
Right.
tried that. We didn't
Yeah.
actually run a dry hearing, but we like the YouTube videos that we can watch code enforcement. But
The thing that I find as a special master is that one of the harder things is when someone says, so for example, code compliance will often do inspections the day before the hearing. And that's usually pretty good because usually things don't change between that time period. But sometimes they do. And then I have a decision to make. It's like if they say in that 24 hours that they've fixed it, code enforcement can't really rebut that. They haven't been out there in the last 24 hours. So it's an interesting question. As of the date of the hearing, do I still find a violation if they say it's fixed? Or do I say, and I don't know if that would really apply here or not, because the fact of the matter is they were caught, I guess, they may or may not have been caught, but they didn't pay.
so the database is available to us right up until the time of the hearing. I believe Stephanie, and we're maybe in the future we can get to where she can pull them up
I
through
have my laptop
Wi-Fi.
with me.
And she'll be able to verify if they were to say, look, we did go ahead and pay this morning,
Yeah.
and we can verify that.
Yes.
Are those considered public records? I think so.
The system, you have to have a login,
Mm.
so I'm not sure.
I'm just throwing. I'm not. It's my job to think of like difficult things sometimes, and I guess I just wonder because if someone makes a public records request for some of that stuff, if you're reviewing it in a hearing and it's used in a public hearing, and it's pursuant to a contract with the county, I imagine that it's a public record. But I don't know. There's people who know a lot more about it than I do. Okay, so that kind of addresses that. How can they fix it between the time that they get a notice and the time they appear here? Is it just paying a fine? Is it just paying whatever the amount is?
They have an opportunity. If they went to the launch that day, they failed to pay, didn't understand it, they received the notice within a couple, 2 to 3 weeks. There is a number on the notice of violation that they can call, or a website they can go in and actually explain. And at that point, Premium can educate them and possibly get them to purchase the annual pass in lieu of, or, you know,
Right.
to try to question.
Right, so the annual pass will also get them out of it. Well, actually, as far as, will they have to pay the fine and then the annual pass? How will that work?
What we've seen, Premium has been able to void the notice of violation in lieu of them then applying and
annual.
pay for the pass,
They have
which
to apply, they don't necessarily just get it?
they have to go in and actually, you know, log in
Mhm.
to the application or do it over the phone with Premium, giving them their information.
Is there ever any situation in which they'd be denied? That you know of?
I do know that obviously these individuals, I don't know if they have appealed, or I shouldn't say appealed, if they have not called to question it or at least put an explanation. If they did and Premium still denied, it was, some of them are due to, we didn't see the signs. And Premium has been on location, they have worked these launches, and they feel that we have sufficient signage, that is not a good enough reason to void it.
I will say that I think it's important that I get to see the agenda ahead of time because I need to run a conflicts check, perhaps, you know? So I don't know. I don't see any clients of mine on here, and I don't have like a ton in Citrus County, but you never know. I don't want to have to just withdraw and then force y'all to find another special master or something the day of the hearing.
Understand?
And Francine, I think his question was, if anybody actually applies for an annual pass, or will that ever be denied? Is there
Yeah.
a reason
Not to
somebody
den-
applies
That's what I meant.
for the annual pass?
Not
Will that
by
ever be
ordinance.
denied?
No, they would not be denied
Okay.
to do
It's
an
a
annual.
right. Like if they pay it or whatever, they basically can get that right. Okay.
For the annual pass.
Well, I think y'all have thought of pretty much everything. Again, I mean, if you have any other questions, I guess we'll just have to see how it goes with this information packet and see what kind of questions or concerns people have or challenges. You never know. I mean, you never know. We had some doozies today. Now, under the ordinance, which I haven't studied super closely, I've glanced at it. Is there a provision for repeat offenders or anything like that?
Yes.
There are.
Yeah.
And that was my question as well, is what our recommendation is if they are found, you know, based on the ordinance, there's a fine from Premium at the $50 plus the county ordinance of $50 with possible administrative cost.
There's an increased amount due for reoffenders
Okay.
in the ordinance.
The
Correct.
first time repeat is 250 plus administrative costs. Second and subsequent violation are 500 plus administrative costs.
Wow. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And is it just monetary fines? Is there anything injunctive relief or anything like that beyond monetary fines that is something the special master would ever assess? You know, in code compliance, we.
I'm reading.
Oh, I'm sorry.
If I recall correctly, it's mostly just fines, but then we also have a catch-all in our code that allows you to
Yeah.
try to seek other remedies.
Which would be interesting if applied here, because I don't really, maybe there's another remedy that if there was like, if they had violated 10 times and they were just, you know, this is like their favorite thing to violate.
I don't think you can seize their boat.
Well, I wouldn't, it's really
He's
not
thinking
something
about
I would
it.
ever,
He's thinking about it.
I would never contemplate that, but I mean, maybe you can issue some kind of an injunction to prevent them from using the launches, so that if they violate it, it's almost like a contempt thing. I don't know.
I think we would have to go through court for that.
Yeah.
Do a citation.
Did you think 2 weeks in advance is enough time for you to get the agenda?
Yes,
Okay.
yeah, for sure.
And
One-
when is the next, it would be
January, for
March,
the, yeah.
March 15th, I believe.
Yes, the 15th.
March 15th is when
Oh, okay.
we're doing
So
quarterly.
Quarterly, okay.
Mhm.
and-
Wow, so that's going to be a crazy, I mean, is that going to be a full day thing?
Well, and then, you know, initially we were trying to figure out when to have these. We thought we could hold them in the afternoons of the code hearings, but now that we see the number of cases, that might not be what we might need to.
I have no trouble setting aside my schedule as long as I know in advance, and since they're going to be quarterly, but my concern is, and we never really know how long the code compliance stuff is going to go. At least I don't. I mean, there's some months that I think it'll be 2 hours. It's 5. This one was right about what I expected. But if we set this hearing for a specific time, I would always feel obligated to adjourn the code compliance one to start this one. So it's something that y'all may want to think about. But on the other hand, if you notice this to occur directly after code compliance, but with the number of cases here, I mean, I just think it's overwhelming to think that we could get it done in. I mean, I don't know how they're going to, but if they're anything like code compliance cases, where you have a predicate that you're laying down in each case, I'm giving certain orders in each case. Think about it. So there's 103 here. If each case took 3 minutes, that's 5 hours. And that's if we're really cranking.
And that's if nobody shows
Yeah.
up.
That's pretty much, you know. You know, there might be ways of streamlining it, but we're just really, more than likely, it's because we're going to need to break. I don't like driving y'all. It's for your benefit as well as everyone else's, especially the public, to sit for 3 and 4 hours at a time waiting for your case to be called is grueling. It's just something for y'all to think about. It's out of my hands. I mean, I'm happy to work with you, but I
And
would,
now that we have time to,
yeah.
since, and like I said, the first was gonna be 200 and some cases.
The
And now
original,
it's-
right?
and now it's half. of that,
Hopefully
but
this has
still
a
it's very
deterrent
large.
effect, and then your case is good. I mean, have you found it to have a deterrent effect yet? Do you know what the initial results are? Are people like, whoa, I shouldn't do this anymore? Do you know?
We've,
Well, what made it go from 250 to 103? Did some people suddenly magically start paying and getting?
the original number that was given to us was not the correct date to
Okay.
pull. They actually were pulling, because you have to give the 60-day notice.
Right.
And Premium had actually provided us right up to December, when they shouldn't have gone past the 21st of October in order to have given 60 days
Okay.
prior to this
That makes
day.
sense.
So it was an inaccurate number. However, from the 118 that was provided to us this Friday, Cecilia had kept notating that people started to pay as the day got closer. So we did have some.
Okay.
And again, the certified mail-outs also went out immediately. And I know, I've seen it. I saw it yesterday. I had a couple come in immediately. I need to get this resolved.
Wow, okay.
So
Well, it could be less.
we could have less that this, that we're not going to be adding this group onto the next group in March if the certified mail-outs helped.
I mean, if necessary to avoid an all-day hearing, which I think is what you're looking at this point, I mean, could you call a special hearing? That's not really, I'll work with y'all
I
on.
mean, set it on a different date.
Yeah, I mean, just so that I worry that we could even get through it in one day. a
Well,
full-
and initially, we didn't think there would be that many, so we were looking on just, well, we'll just do it in the afternoon of code, but now we may have to set a separate date. I think for March, we probably already have sent notices out with a specific date and time.
Okay.
Correct.
I
So
see.
for March, we're pretty much locked in.
I see.
After that, we can
Mm.
set aside a separate date.
You were surprised by the number of violators?
Yeah, because we know a lot of people have paid too.
That's so
Oh,
interesting.
there's
Okay.
been
Yeah,
abundance
so-
of payment,
Mhm.
yes.
And this wasn't during scallop season, was it?
Wow.
This group.
No,
wasn't.
because this was actually September 1st.
How interesting.
So it was part of scallop season.
A small portion, I think.
Yes, it would have been, because then they would have gotten, the mailings are notified as of September. Yeah, anything prior to. Mhm.
The summer months and scallop season will be the busiest
Oh, sure.
at the boat ramps.
Yeah.
But now we're rolling into winter, it'll be a little slower.
Okay. Well, I mean, I feel good about where you guys are at. I just encourage y'all to have enough time for these hearings. I guess that's my only concern. 'Cause I just don't know that I can get through it.
Well,
That
and we
quickly.
could, like we do here with regular code, we take the people who appear first.
Absolutely.
So we could take everybody who shows up and then continue out if necessary.
Well, that's the thing. I mean, I always say this, but due process is the thing we have to give. So, like, if someone shows up, everything that someone says might be legally gibberish. It might be legally wrong. It might be all those things. But I'm really not. I can't just compel them to stop speaking because they have to be heard. Due process is the one thing. I mean, unless they're being vulgar and harassing, and they've already said and they're repeating themselves. But it could be that of these 103 people, if only 10 have diatribes that they want to make, they have a right to be heard. So that's going to expand. And we had 30 or so cases today, and it wasn't that bad, but sometimes we'll have 20 cases, and everyone will have a long story. It just can dramatically increase things. And I really don't have any control over that. So that's something to think about as well, because it just may be that people don't understand this and it has to be explained. And I will do the job of explaining what this ordinance is to people who don't understand. So that takes time too. Do y'all have any other questions for me? Okay. Well, I'm excited to work with y'all and on enforcing this. And if there's nothing else, I'll just adjourn the hearing. Time's 1:30. Thank you.
Between now and then, if I can help you in any way, Cecilia, let me know.
Lori, what'd you
We
do
know
here?
you've been great.
She was dancing too hard.
Yeah.
My sister and I were having too good of a time.
Seriously, they were dancing. Your
You
sister
were
bumped
really